Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Ali, Coram, and Ken Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, Wednesday, June 5th, where we saw bullish gains, especially for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, which scored fresh highs after some ADP data, Ken.
Yeah, the Dow Jones and Russell 2000 still lagging, but all-time highs for the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So easy to find stocks to talk about today. I want to talk about CrowdStrike's earnings, CRWD. Also, chip equipment stocks just on fire today. ASML joined leaderboard today. ASML is the ticker there. And finally, Oscar Health, a health insurer, OSCR, that is still acting pretty well here.
All right. Sounds like a plan. We will get to those tickers, but first let's take a look at the major indexes. The Nasdaq Composite today up almost 2% and clearing that 17,000 level with gusto today. The S&P 500, meanwhile, up 1.2%, clearing the highs from its recent trading range. And the Dow today up about 0.25%, lagging, as you said, trying to get back above that 50-day line. It's right at that level. Now, the Russell 2000 with a strong day. We can go to 0 RUS in market surge, showing a gain of about 1.5%. So right around the 50-day line here, trying to use that as a springboard. But Ken, let's start with the Nasdaq and your take on the action. I mean, you mentioned chip stocks definitely behind the powerful gains today.
Yeah, I was in early this morning, as per usual, and I was noticing Taiwan Semiconductor holding a solid 2 or 3% gain. And it was early; it was well before the open, and I was just kind of efforting some headlines. But so it turns out Barclays had some good things to say about Applied Materials. Came out with a positive note for AMAT, and also TSM. They bumped up TSM's price target, so you can see Applied Materials had a nice move with some volume today. Barclays also had positive comments about TSM as well. The world's largest chip foundry. They're seeing pretty strong demand from inside China from a lot of these AI chip firms that are giving TSMC kind of less designs that are less complicated to kind of deal with the U.S. sanctions. So it looks like TSM, pretty good fundamental outlook, as well as AMT, and it fueled a broad-based rally in the chip equipment group. That was up more than 5% today, and really a big reason why the Nasdaq was able to take out that 17,000 level with some volume too. Good to see.
Yeah. So that's looking pretty good. We found support at the 21-day line. We're still in a power trend, and power is definitely a good word to describe the action for the major indexes today. And here's a look at the S&P. It's been lagging the Nasdaq a little bit, but great to see it get above the high of that downside reversal day, Ken, from 523.
Yeah, you had that initial volume surge on Friday when the S&P reversed higher, and it was actually a pretty good day for the market last Friday. So that was the last time we saw some volume in the S&P 500. It's continued higher since then. Volume has gotten lighter and lighter and lighter. So not a total deal breaker here. The S&P 500 did clear some key resistance levels today. Not as much volume on the NYSE as we saw on the Nasdaq today, but still a decent looking breakout for the S&P 500 too.
Absolutely. And let's see how growth stocks acted today. Here's a look at the FFTY ETF, definitely outperforming here, Ken, up 3.6%. So as growth traders, we like to see that.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see FFTY had been under some pressure. I think that was 6 down days. There was some volume, but it did firm up right where it should, right at that red line, the 50-day moving average. And then a nice pop today with some volume back above the 28 level. So I thought it was really a great day for growth stocks, and I think that was reflected in FFTY with that nice close near highs.
And you mentioned chips, and especially the chip equipment group. Let's take a look at the broad chip ETF here, SMH. Look at that, up 4.9% on the day. So continuing to lead this market.
Yeah, and good volume in SMH. You can see came in above average. well above the prior session's volume. So a lot of good looking technical moves. So I think the just the takeaway from today is that you have to respect this uptrend. We've definitely been getting some mixed signals from the market, whether it's kind of weak breadth. And I have to say, even today with the nice percentage gains that we saw in the market, breadth on the Nasdaq and the NYSE didn't even get to 2-to-1 positive. So it was disappointing to me, but again, and probably to a lot of breadth watchers, when you see these nice percentage gains, you'd like to see that breadth 3, 4, 5-to-1 positive. So it was a little disappointing today, but listen, the price action is the price action, and we had breakouts for SMH and the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 today.
Yeah, and speaking of that breadth issue, Ken, I think that speaks to the importance of focusing on stocks that are showing relative strength. So even if, underneath the surface, there are some trouble points, I feel like that relative strength line and seeing that RS line blue dot is just one factor that can help us make sure that we're buying the things that are working in this market.
Yeah, it's ironic. I just did another monthly piece for the Wall Street Journal, and with this edition, we were talking about relative strength and why it's important to focus on the leading stocks in the market and not the lagging stocks. So, had a lot of leaders making nice upward moves today. So that's just what we want to see, in a power trend and in a confirmed uptrend like we're in.
Right. And I mean, the fundamentals are key, but in terms of the technical side of things, I mean, I think that relative strength is one of our North Stars. So we'll continue to focus on that. Let's take a look at the IBIT ETF, Ken. This tracks Bitcoin and it's having a pretty good week. Let's take a look at the weekly chart here, up 5.5%. And looks like, between Monday, Tuesday, today, opportunities to accumulate for those who are interested in crypto.
Yeah, I think the setup here looks pretty good. I was talking about IBIT with my colleague Dave Chung today. We were looking to increase exposure. We held off on IBIT just because listen, it is trying to break out over that 40.67 pivot. Volume is okay, but this is just kind of looks so far like a sluggish breakout to me. So we kind of held off. It closed right at the buy point, but you have three up days in a row, and usually when a stock breaks out and clears a key resistance level, you'd like to see some power, and just not seeing it yet in IBIT doesn't mean that it still looks good and is still showing relative strength. We'll continue to watch it, but typically if we're going to look at a stock or ETF that's breaking out of a base like this one is trying to do, we really like to see power and volume at the breakout, and just not getting it quite yet here.
Okay, and next on the list, let's check in on XLU. My keyboard didn't work there for the X, but here's XLU Utilities. Actually, AI plays, Ken. So we've been focusing on the action here. What are you seeing?
Well, I was just kind of going through the S&P 500's 11 sectors that they track with certain ETFs. This was the lagging sector, maybe not surprisingly today on such a strong update for tech stocks. But I have to say XLU is still in a pretty orderly pullback here, just kind of testing its 21-day moving average. So obviously the technology stocks were the big winners today, but utilities, still after a really, really strong uptrend. Just kind of pulling back to the 21-day line here. So even though it was a lagging sector today, I'm not sure this is ready to give up its leadership yet, but, good ETF to watch going forward.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because in April and May, we saw a lot of relative strength in this area as it seemed like the AI picks and shovels became pretty evident with a number of these utility players. So maybe money rotating out of these alternative AI plays and more into the chip stocks, which are more of your predominantly AI players when you think of AI.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's exactly right, and I'm not sure that you really want to just kind of focus on where the strength is in the market. Had some software stocks that rebounded today a little bit, but just in terms of the sector leadership, you can see the IGV is still, a lot of selling in the software sector. We've seen a lot of these enterprise software stocks come in. We'll talk about CrowdStrike in a second. That fueled a little bit of a rally in some software stocks, but you can see this IGV is still stuck below a lot of moving averages and in a pretty pronounced downtrend here.
Yeah, pretty beaten down, even with a gain of about 2.3% today, right at the 200-day line. But that's a great segue, Ken, to CRWD. This is CrowdStrike, arguably the leader in the security software industry group. A really solid reaction to earnings out last night. Today, up 12%, heavy volume on the move. Looks like bottom. Oop, I stretched my chart accidentally. Meant to just raise it up so I could see the numbers there. Bottom line growth up 63%, top line growth up 33%. I know annual recurring revenue also a highlight at the company in terms of the growth that they're seeing. So Ken, what stands out to you about this chart and what the company is doing?
Well, the 3 months ago when they reported earnings, it wasn't able to hold a really strong gain when it ran up to 365. And again, this was 3 months ago when they last reported earnings. It started to do the same thing today in morning trade. We were looking at it on IBD Live, and it really it had come down, but then it just got stronger as the Nasdaq strengthened throughout the day. So obviously the numbers were excellent. Again, you can see a very consistent track record of growth for CrowdStrike. The issue here is that it's really the only. It's kind of like the lone wolf in the group. If you look at Palo Alto Networks and some of the other stocks in this group, they're still really just not looking all that great on downtrends. And so you have CrowdStrike as kind of sticking out as the big leader in the group at this point. We did not act on this today. We don't have much software exposure in the leaderboard model portfolio, but it was a good day of price action. If we go back to the daily chart here. It is going to maybe try to retest those highs from last week, but to see it back above all of its short-term moving averages, good volume, close near highs. This is an example of just what sustained buying demand looks like, and it's what you want to see when a stock makes a strong early move. So I think it's one worth watching. We tend to, if we like a stock, we like to see kind of strong breadth of leadership in a group, and we don't really have that in the security software group. You can see the ranking of 151 out of 197. That's just because a lot of stocks have sold off pretty hard in this group. But credit to CrowdStrike for not only a good earnings report, but they raised their revenue guidance for the current quarter and also for the full year. So this is a company that really still seems to be executing quite well.
And we open the show talking about the strength in the chip equipment group. So let's go to ASML in that space, up 9.5% today, getting above that nice round number at 1,000, a key psychological level. Ken, looks like the close here as well was nice in terms of top of the trading range and some volume behind it too.
Yeah, so this is a company that is very unique in what they supply, these advanced lithography systems that are used in the chip or the chip making process. The news today was that it looks like Taiwan Semiconductor is going to take delivery of one of their very, very pricey chip equipment lithography machines, and that was a little bit in question. But this was when a stock gaps up over a buy point, and the buy point here was a little bit of a handle that it formed, but it moved nicely above that 1,000 level. Once we saw that the stock was holding gains, we did actually put this on leaderboard today. We really didn't increase exposure aggressively today, but we did add this because we like the quality of the breakout. A lot of these chip equipment firms are talking about improving demand sort of in the second half of this year and into 2025. And you can see that in ASML's numbers. If you go to the weekly chart and look at the fundamentals, you can see revenue growth in the latest quarter was actually down. Down year over year. For the second quarter, it's expected to be down, but then you can see the fundamentals starting to pick back up in the second half of this year. So, good breakout, good solid relative strength line, and this is our third chip stock that we now have on the leaders list.
Yeah, and relative strength line blue dot on the weekly chart underscoring that outperformance. So whether you're looking at a downtrend line or just that round number at 1,000 or that quasi handle buy point, it looks like the technicals here are quite strong. And let's round things out with a look at ticker OSCR. This is Oscar Health in the health insurance space. Looks like it's firming up, Ken, right around the 10-week line.
Yeah, and it's a name that we're watching here because we think it has a lot of positive qualities that you want to see in a stock. It definitely has the new going for it. This is sort of a new kind of health insurer that offers sort of a hybrid PPO and HMO type plan. But you can see a really positive response to earnings recently, fueled a really strong breakout. It pulled back in mostly light volume, so we're going to watch this one for a better entry. It's a little bit after the pullback. It's a little bit extended from the 10-week moving average and from that prior buy point. But the fact that it's pulled back, it's kind of at a more reasonable price now. We're just going to watch for a better entry here. But like the fact that it's holding support where it should, and it's just kind of retesting that last buy area. So if this starts moving over 20 and starts to show improving relative strength, that's what we want to see. We'll see if it happens. But fundamentals here, you can see the top line growth has been very impressive and right on the verge of profitability here.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Ken, for all of that. And thanks everyone for tuning in. That is it for today's show, but we hope you join us tomorrow morning on IABD Live, investors.com/IABD Live for all the details on that. We will see you there, and then we'll also see you right back here tomorrow after the close.